by the rivers of Babylon. Yeah, we sat down and we cried when we remembered Jerusalem. We were sick, Lord, near to dying. Oh,
Shalom, shalom, family. Welcome to another Tanakh review. My name is Zurishaddai, one of the teachers of Congregation BINAH CHOKMAH, located in the Red Hook section of Brooklyn, New York. Giving all honor, glory, and praise to the Most High God, King of the universe, for life, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all of your lives and praying that the Most High God will continue to bless and keep each one and every one of you. Early Shabbat Shalom to everyone. Thanking the Creator of heaven and earth for all things that He does for us. I'm grateful to the Most High God for my life, the life of all of you, and thank you all for tuning in to this program, to this podcast. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe, and to keep this thing going, the algorithm and everything going. And also, if you would like to, under the descriptions after the Shabbat, you can there are ways so you could donate towards the congregation. So we appreciate you all. We thank you all for your support, and we continue to bring you these shows as long as Nasik Zurishaddai is in good strength and good health. I'm sure he will continue to do this. So we appreciate all of you. And we pray that the Most High God will continue to bless each and every one of you. At this time, we'll move straight ahead, and we'll continue with the portion that's at hand, which is Nasso. And for that, I pass it on to one of my teachers and one of my mentors, Nasik Zurishaddai ben Yehudah. How are you, Nasik?
Great, Baruch Hashem. First of all, I'd like to give praises to the supreme intelligence of the universe, God of my forefathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And due respect to the platform I'm on, the D.C.B channel platform, the spiritual leader, Chief Prince Yeriel Ben Yisachar, to the host, Chief Uzael, to the Prince, Chief Kohanim, Rabbinate, Maureen, brothers and sisters and visitors to the channel. I greet you all and tell my forefathers, Shalom Aleichem, and an early Shabbat Shalom. And I'd like to say, Adonai, Septai, Titakofi, Agitira, Tika. O Lord, down my lips, my mouth to declare that praise. First of all, forgive me again. I'm still out of town, and I'm having a problem with my laptop for a minute, so I had to use a different method. So I didn't get a chance to see any possible questions concerning the last couple of reviews. So I should be able to catch up on that, by next week. I should be in my own back in my own neighborhood by then. In any event, I hope everybody had a great Shabbat that passed, and also have a great Shabbat coming forward. We had just finished Bar Mitzvah, which means in the wilderness, and also a bunch of words being spoken here. And then here we come to this point in time, the sidra called Nasso. Now, Nasso itself, is basically like a continuation, but it starts from the actual fourth chapter of did I move it? Yeah, moved it. It actually starts from the fourth chapter of Numbers, the 21st verse, and it continues all the way through the end of the 7th chapter. This has happened to be this is the longest sidra in the book, longest portion in the book, basically 176 Pesukim verses and stuff that's enumerated in this particular section, going to Nazarite, enumeration. And what's interesting is that while we dealing with accounting, but we're dealing with accounting, and still doing accounting, and focusing on the section of the Levites. Now we finished off last week talking about the Kohathites, and one of the interesting things about the Kohathites, when they talk about their particular job, that it must be, that when they was enumerated, that they have the most sensitive job within the Levitical order of transport. And one of the things we should think about and consider is that we have one tribe of the Levites, such as the Kohathites, that not only had to be safeguarded in their job, where their life is constantly at stake, where it's not only if they touch any of the sacred objects that's within the tabernacle, but even if they happen to see it in its natural state. Now you say, well, all right, if I see a part of the object, part of the ark, part of the shulchan, part of the sacred vessels that deal with those items, part of the golden altar incense, and the menorah. Now, from the shape, I should know what it is, but I'm not allowed to look at it directly. And yet, we know that the ark will leave the camp once in a while in certain events, as we know later on in history. So, how did it leave? Later on, and why did it was able to leave later on? When and we know Moses had mentioned in his time, in the wilderness, and within the early part of the second year, that the ark would not leave the camp. So that's something to consider, and maybe talk with your various teachers about that, about the sacredness of the ark, and why is it sacred at times and why it's not so much sacred at times in that area, where we bring things, we could bring it out in its natural state. And what's even interesting is that, all right, I can see I'm not supposed to touch something, so it's well insulated by, and it's the responsibility of Eleazar, Aaron's son, to make sure that he does his job well in the Mishkan, and also it's his job to make sure the Ark of the Covenant is covered. And yet, his father, who's the high priest, only supposed to go into the Holy of Holy once in a year, and yet when it's time to move, they had to disassemble it. And another thing that's very interesting as we go forward in this particular thing, that just to think about, is that in the beginning, we made the furnitures for the tabernacle, such as the Ark of the Covenant, which is immediately needed because we had the tablets, and then we had we had the table of showbread, we had the menorah, we had the altar incense, we had the brazen altar and its utensils and stuff of that nature, all the vessels that holy vessels that goes along with those particular items. So we had that prepared first. As I said previously in one of my talks, that normally you get the house, you get the structure, and bring the furniture in. We had the furniture, the items, before we had the structure up. Now, as we talk about the different Levitical orders about how they're going to move and how they're based around the tabernacle, what we have here is the items are prepared and taken out first. And then the next thing, after Kohath does his job, then the next thing, the Gershonites do their job. And the Gershonites, their thing is the curtains, the screens, and stuff like that. They had the tapestry, all the different coverings. They take that off, which was the last thing that was done. The coverings was the last thing. And then the Merarites, they take and disassemble the panels and the boards and all that stuff, the real actual physical structure, and they carry that out. And yet, when it gets to the spot where the God's presence want them to dwell at in the wilderness, that the Merarites, now they move in first, set up the structure. Then the Gershonites do their job. And then the last ones to bring their stuff in is the Kohathites. So those things, it's very intricate, in that sense. Now, another thing for discussion is while we learn so much concerning the tabernacle and the orders of the Levites, and why it's necessary for something that's only going to be temporary. It's not going to be an everlasting thing, which we know. It wasn't an everlasting thing. It lasted a long time. But basically, the tabernacle, it lasted for 480 years. So now, since we know that the tabernacle lasted for 480 years, why study so much about the order of the Levites and their job and go so much detail in it when it's only going to be temporary? It's not going to be a permanent thing. And we know because Solomon himself built the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, for the Creator. And we was talking about when we get to the place, a spot, a permanent spot. And we know also that when they come back from Babylon, they rebuilt a second temple. And we know, according to Ezekiel and the prophecy, that it will be a third temple built up. So no one will be transporting anything beyond this point in time. So why would it be necessary to even constantly study this area? Being it was a temporary thing. And if things would went ideally, they only would have moved it around after the tribes were settled in the land. And then once they settled in the land, then you have, the sabbatical year, starting to begin. You have, the Levites no longer doing their jobs, so they got to do other little jobs. And if you're talking about thousands of Levites, what would be their job? When all of them couldn't be in one locale, they had to be dispersed throughout the various tribes of Israel. So how would that function? When they know that eventually that the tabernacle is not going to be moved around anymore, because we will be at a central location. And then what is even strange, the tabernacle, one thing, it shows that God forgave us for the sin of the golden calf when we had the Mishkan. Also, when He forgave us for the sin of the golden calf and allowed us to have the Mishkan, it had the second set of tablets. We learned a lot, concerning that we have an institution now where man not only can repent, but a concept of forgiveness, and we have a concept that's developed strongly about holiness, because outside of the Shabbat day, when we talk about the holy Shabbat day, which is something that we can't put our hands on, the only other time we hear about things about holiness, a holy spot, is when Moses stood before the burning bush and God said, that he stood on holy ground. After that, we learn also the next time we hear about holiness, we hear in concern with when we were supposed to be sanctified against the third day, so became purified and holy in order to receive the Creator presence, at Mount Torah, and then after that, after the Mishkan, when the Mishkan is developed, then it's talking about how you eat, how you dress, what kind of relationships you should have, and all that other stuff. There's different defilements and stuff. So we learn all that, you know, in reference to, of course, we got an item within our presence that's holy, and we got to stay in a state of holiness. And the patriarchs and stuff, great guys, I say the great guys like Enoch, we know they had to be special, but we don't find the term holy there. We know Noah was special, but we don't see the thing about holiness there. We know our father, Abraham Avinu, you know, special, and all the other patriarchs, but we don't see the thing of holiness there. You know, it's only when we got this institution here. So we should be, you know, delighted, you know, and excited about that. But the thing is, now at this point in time, and we find that this the Mishkan is not itself. I mean, the Book of Numbers is not in this chronological order, because now when we're getting to read about Nasso and counting and lifting the heads, right? It's the heads. The word Nasso means to lift the heads. We find now that this area here, when we're going to cover it, is going to take place in Rosh Chodesh. You know, this is actually the month of Aviv, the second year. You know, and you know, before, you know, after they left Egypt. So, you know, so we find a lot of stuff in this area here. You know, we find a lot of stuff in this area here that's uniquely, you know, different. And we say, well, why this portion here wasn't first, and then Bar Mitzvah following behind it. And so, because the census for a particular thing, you know, for men to go to war, you know, to be able to go out in conquest. So that means that the idea of getting you to the land as soon as possible, when it took, actually, it took us, you know, actually 3 months to get to Mount Sinai, you know, and be prepared to hear God speak. And yet now it took us almost a year to get to this point where God is ready to deal with us and bring us forward. All right, so that's some of the things I like to bring out in reference to that. And I'm just going to read a couple, and I'm going to skip through a lot, but it's because I'm going to emphasize more so on a priestly blessing. So this particular portion has 8 different, you know, subject matters that's pretty much, you know, spoke about in it. So naturally, you know, I'm not going to speak on all 8 subject matters, you know, at any length of time, but any major length of time, rather, I should say. But it's a lot of different subject matters that's being transmitted here. So I'm just going to highlight some of the subject matters. We counting, you know, the Merarites and the Gershonites, and we talk and talk about their jobs. Then we talk about the uncleanness, you know, the uncleanness to be put out the camp, and then we talk about the restitution of property, you know, trespassing. So then we talk about we deal with the trial of jealousy. We deal with the law of the Nazarite. All right. And continue with the law. Now, we talk about the blessing of the people, and we talk about the offerings of the princes in this particular portion. So we got quite a bit of things that's covered in this particular area here. So I'm just going to highlight a few things as we go forward in this particular portion. So now we know what the memorial is supposed to deal with and carry. You know, and as I said earlier, they deal with the outer things, the curtains, the screens, and then the names. You know, the different characteristics. You know, the Kohath itself. You know, it's like an assembly. You know, and because people would be able to assemble around something that's sanctified. That's one level. And when we think about the Gershonites, you know, I mean, themselves dealing with the curtains, to constantly looking up. You know, always like, you know, being there to try to, you know, they have a unique character, you know, from Gershon, you know, Gershom. So to live by constantly looking towards God, and they got to memorize. It's almost like the word bitter too. They got to stay focused in their job and not, and not to be so bitter with such an arduous task that they have to do on a regular. And these are different elements that they got to overcome those different characteristics, just like we got to develop those different characteristics. And these three are centered around. Not counting the Kohanim, which is a whole nother area in the Eastern branch. So that's still, I'm going to pick up in the 5th chapter, because we know, we realize what these two tribes go. So you could go over the duties of the Gershonites, but the count that's made. And what's interesting is that when you take the count of these guys, that they only work from the age of 30 to 50, and then they must retire. All right. So when we think about the Levitical workers at this time, in their particular job capacity, they're working from 30 to 50. Now, if we're going to make movements and get to the land quickly, then how many years you actually going to work? If we're going to, if we would have got to the land within that 2nd year, then how many times you going to disassemble and reassemble the Mishkan? Being, you got this time of 30 to 50. All right. So you're talking 20 years of work. And you say, okay, if I'm working for 20 years, what kind of work am I actually going to be doing for 20 years? When the object and the aim and the objective was what we conceive of in our own mind is that we're not going to be here 20 years at this point in time. We are going into the land of Israel. And when we go into the land of Israel, everyone's going to have their own particular section. So if everybody's going to have their own particular section, then what would be the need? So that's something to discuss further as you're going forward, in that area. But anyway, to get back to the 20 years, and I always focus on, you could be elder at that age. Once you get 50, and Levites get 50, that we know automatically that he retired from physical labor, but he acts in a supervisory capacity. That's what we work at. If you promise 70, then the 20 years you technically put in working, and as a Levitical person, you get 20 years to really enjoy pretty much the rest of your life. If you think 7 years your ceiling of longevity. So that's why at one time in this country in certain jobs, it was like 20 years and retire, work 20 years and retire, 20 years and retire. Not 30, 40, 50 years and retire when you're about ready to die, when the longevity wasn't that long at the time. So you work that long and then you're ready to die. So the Creator, give you back the years that you will put in, where you can really focus on enjoying your life and teaching. So there'll be, because, when a person becomes idle, they tend to waste away. So they still have a job to do, but your job now is a mentor, a teacher. This is your job at this point in time. So as we look further into some particular portion, I like to focus on the 5th chapter. And it said, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, command the children of Israel that they put out of the camp every leper and everyone that has an issue, and whoever is unclean by the dead, both male and female, shall ye put out. Without the camp shall ye put them, that they defile not their camp in the midst whereof I dwell. And the children of Israel did so, and put them out without the camp. As the Lord spoke unto Moses, so did the children of Israel. Now, we read about the Mezrah, one that has a ra'ah, which they translate in the book as leprosy. Now, when they read about that, and it said what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to be put out, we already was told this. But now, this became in effect because now you actually has the Mishkan erected, because it didn't make sense to put a Mezrah out the camp before the Mishkan was set up, because how would he get back into the camp? So this is some things you could discuss further, you know. So when we read different portions in the book, we gotta say, okay, we know the process of the Kohanim. We know that the Kohanim had to be already set up. The Kohanim, had to be set up in its proper order. We also know that you had to have a spot, a sanctuary, a fabric, in order for them to go through the rituals to come back in after you put them out. So what that teaches you is that when we study different issues and different subjects in the book, then they say, okay, are they doing it now, or this is to come? So you can discuss those things further. But I'm saying one of the things is that they had them there, and they said the children of Israel put them out the camp. Now, were they Israelites, or was it a mixed multitude, or was it a combination of both? This is something, you can even further discuss. But these are some interesting, things I find in this, and when I look at the actual subject matter, all right? And then we have here in the 5th verse, and the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, when a man or a woman shall commit any sin that men commit to commit a trespass against the Lord, and that soul be guilty, then they shall confess their sin which they have done, and he shall make restitution for his guilt in full, and add unto it the 5th part thereof, and give it unto him in respect of whom he has been guilty. But if the man have no kin to whom restitution may be made for the guilt, the restitution for guilt which is made shall be the Lord's, even the priest, besides the rams of the atonement, whereby atonement shall be made for him, and every heave offering of all the holy things of the children of Israel, which they present unto the priest, shall be his, and every man's hollow thing shall be his. Whatsoever any man giveth the priest, it shall be his. Now, what's interesting here, we know you're not supposed to steal. And we know, if you stole, you're supposed to make restitution. Now here we get a particular incident here to tell you about how much you got to bring back. About 25%. All right, a 5th part. But what even interesting is that if the person that you stole from, or and it would say sometimes it could be intentional, sometimes it might not be intentional. Sometimes you might have shortchanged the individual, and whatever the case is. But anyway, the thing is that this usually dealing with a person that basically first off that stole, and he paid it back. See, the day in society a person steal from you, he blow the money or blow the item, and you got your item, you have nothing back from the item. Go to jail, whatever the case is, do a little jail time, but it doesn't satisfy you for your items that you lost, that was taken from you. So here it is about making you not stay a victim long, and paying you for your hurt as being victimized and assaulted, and with of things that you had hold in value. So these are some of the things that we find that's very unique when you get to the Torah portion here. And one of the things is that which Israelite doesn't have a relative? So we're talking about, if a man has no kin, which Israelite doesn't have a kin? You got to have, if you're an Israelite, by seed and blood, you actually have to have either a brother, a sister, mother, father, a son, daughter, or a cousin. So that means that right here, restitution is made to anyone, male or female. So when we get to later on about the daughters of Zelophehad, about the inheritance and having the law written for them on their behalf, you have a law here that any relative just exists, and most likely this is a stranger, that doesn't have any relative, because as an Israelite, somebody in your family is supposed to get that, get that restitution. But as a stranger that's settled amongst us, he say, look, I like your way of life. I like your God. I want to live with y'all. I want to dwell here. And he's done wrong. And as he's done wrong, then okay, I'm the only one here. I came by myself. My other people ain't about to try to do this law. I adopted your God. I adopted your way of life. So like Ruth, so there's no other relatives that that it would be existing there. All right. So let's go a little bit further. All right. Now we got two subject matters that's interesting. I always touch on it a little bit, dealing with this particular area here. And this is what they call the Sulta, the trial of jealousy, which starts in the 5th chapter, 11th verse. And then you got the law of the Nazarite. Now, I'm just going to read the opening pretty much of the 5th chapter, 11th verse. I'm not going to read all of it in that, and then make some excuse me, some comments. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak unto the children of Israel, and saying unto them, if any man's wife go aside and act unfaithfully against him, and a man lie with her carnally, and it be hid from the eyes of her husband, she being defiled secretly, and there be no witness against her, neither she be taken in the act, and the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be defiled, or if the spirit of jealousy come upon him, and he be jealous of his wife, and she be not defiled, then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest, and shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is a meal offering of jealousy, a meal offering, a memorial of bringing iniquity to remembrance. All right. And the priest shall bring her near and set her before the Lord. All right. And the priest shall take holy water in an earthen vessel, and of the dust that is on the floor of the tabernacle, the priest shall take and put it into the water. And the priest shall set the woman before the Lord, and let the hair of the woman's head go loose, and put meal offering of a memorial in her hands, which is the meal offering of jealousy. All right. And the priest shall have in his hand the water of bitterness that causes the curse. And the priest shall cause her to swear, and say, and shall say unto the woman, if no man have lain with thee, and if thou hast not gone aside to uncleanness, being under thy husband, be thou free from this water of bitterness that causes the curse. But if thou hast gone aside, being under thy husband, and if thou be defiled, and some man have lain with thee besides thy husband, then the priest shall cause the woman to swear with the oath of cursing. And the priest shall say unto the woman, the Lord make thee a curse and an oath among thy people. When the Lord does make thy thigh to fall away, and thy belly to swell, and this water that causes the curse shall come into thy bowels, and make thy belly swell, and thy thigh to fall away. And the woman shall say, Amen, Amen. I just stopped there, pretty much. And the priest it goes on, pretty much, with the thing. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on another portion in this particular thing, in the book, which is um, concerning, a bit of HaKohen, the blessings of the priest. So when we think about this particular thing, here's a woman. She is not can't be charged. Don't be charged enough. She can't technically be charged because you have no evidence. And so so then she's coming forth, with no charge, no evidence, concerning how you feel, and it said the spirit of jealousy. So that means if the book talks about the spirit of jealousy, this is something that really exists, and it's a real thing. And it's different types of spirit. We talk about a mad spirit, a good spirit, a Holy Spirit. We got all the different types of spirits that exist within the individual, but this is a man that has this spirit. And he, and according to rabbinic law, she had to agree to go through the trial. That's rabbinic law, but it doesn't say that here. So I just want to bring that out because I know I might talk to a lot of people that's might follow more rabbinic traditional view. And according to rabbinic law, she had to agree to go through this whole stuff because you have no evidence. But he has authority over her, and so according to the written book, Tanakh, as we read here, he has that authority. It don't leave a question whether she had the option to go or not. So I try to avoid those different areas when I speak on a platform such as this. I might share some points, in there, but I tend to try to stay more with what is written in Peshat, the plain, simple written meaning. All right, so going and looking at that it would seem she had no choice. She going, according to the text. And the priest asked her directly. Now, and it said the spirit of jealousy is working in two areas. I believe, it said the spirit of jealousy, the spirit of jealousy come on in the man. But it says she had, and it says, or she had not. But the spirit of jealousy is still there. So what is the trial technically working on as well? It's not only about the woman, but it's also trying to say, look, I need to get this man mind right, get this man's mind correct. And in a relationship, trust is only given once. Trust can never be given twice. It's between people. It only can be given once. Once the trust is lost, it's never ever regained. The respect remains, but never the trust. In that level. So one of the areas is that they don't even talk about the woman's emotion, and then she got to say amen twice to confirm something about a curse. You know, and the priest makes a statement, not that you did, actually commit this sin. Making it emphatic, but it's more of an interrogative, interrogative, in that sense. So this is one of the things to go through. And then at the end of the story, we know that if she's, innocent of this here suspicion that her husband has, then she will have not just a child, but a son. There's a lot of different commentaries in reference to that. I don't want to go into that now because that's not going to be my main focus today. But that she's going to have a son after she goes through all that. Now, how do the relationships act behind that? You had this feeling. So what about her emotions? How does she feel about you? All right. She's already could say, God was with me. God justified me. God did this for me. And then you got to even say, okay, she's guaranteed to have a son to prove she's innocent, But do she really want a son by you at this point? Or does she which hope that you divorce her at this point? So it's a lot of emotional things when we could go back and forth and discuss that more. But one of the things that I must emphasize in this area here is about the man's comfort in the woman, and not necessarily in this case, the woman's comfort in the man, which is, I know, a lot of modern, women that have issues with that today, but I didn't come up with these rules. This is some of the things that, that the Creator Himself had placed down on record. So we got, look, and Creator's more knowledgeable than any of us could be, and more compassionate than anyone else could be. And the thing is that it shows you that the criteria of jealousy, how detrimental and what it could cause, that's so great that the Creator wants peace between a man and a woman, so much so that it don't have to be a suspicion on it. And I could use a lot of analogies, but like I said, I'm not going to focus on that. And I could go back to the garden and talk a lot of stuff and make a lot of correlations, but that's not what I'm going to do now. And then the next portion is when we talk about the Nazarite, all right, in the 6th chapter. And the Nazarite in the 6th chapter, it says that the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying to them, when either man or woman shall clearly utter a vow, the vow of a Nazarite to consecrate himself unto the Lord, he shall abstain from wine and strong drink, and he shall drink no vinegar of wine, or vinegar of strong drink, neither shall he drink any liquor of grapes, nor eat fresh fruit, eat fresh grapes or dry. And all the days of his Nazarethship shall he eat nothing that is made of the grapevine, from the pressed grape even to the grape stone. All the days of his vow of Nazarethship, there shall no razor come upon his head, until the days be fulfilled in which he consecrated himself unto the Lord. He shall be holy. He shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow long. All the days that he consecrated himself unto the Lord, he shall not come near to a dead body. He shall not make himself unclean for his father, or for his mother, for his brother, or for his sister when they die, because his consecration unto God is upon his head. All the days of his Nazarethship he is holy unto the Lord. And if any man die very suddenly beside him, he is defiled his consecrated head. He defiled his consecrated head. Then he shall shave his head in the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day shall he shave it. And on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtle doves of 2 young pigeons to the priest, to the door of the tent of meeting. And the priest shall prepare one for a sin offering, another for a burnt offering, and make atonement for him for that he sinned by reason of the dead, and he shall hallow his head that same day, and he shall consecrate unto the Lord the days of his Nazarethship, and shall bring a he lamb of the first year for a guilt offering, but the former day shall be void, because his consecration was defiled. All right. Now, that's all I'm going to read in that area there. That comes right beside the trial of jealousy. And the first thing it talks about is that he should not, he should abstain from wine. Now, when we think about a Nazarite, we say, well, okay, is a good guy trying to be more saintly, or a bad guy trying to get good? It's strange that it comes behind this and uses wine as a basics, as a first thing it talks about abstaining from. Now, drinking could cause a lot of action to go on. When it comes right next to the Psalter, the woman accused of being, defiled, that she, wine in a setting, that's why women shouldn't drink too much, outside of their husband. I mean, if a woman like to drink or whatever the case is, then it's either in the company of a bunch of women or in the company of a husband, not in the company of other men. So we all just having a taste and drinking this and this and that and the other. But it could lead to certain things. We know that Noah, his first man we read about to get drunk. They even got some Talmudic stuff, about what kind of fruit was eaten in the garden and stuff like that. But I'm not going to even go there. But the thing is that Noah, first thing he planted was a vineyard. And that it says he planted a vineyard. I said, well, you can't really get a whole lot of nourishment off of just grapes, but and that's a sign of luxury. And he drank, and he got drunk, and we see what happened with that. We know that Lot, after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, that we find that in the cave, his daughters got him to drink, and we know what happened after that in the book. So here it is that they even, say Nadab and Abihu was drunk that day on Rosh Kodesh and everything like that. That, like I said, they allude to that. It's one of the problems that they had, and help contribute contributory to their death. That's another story, as far as I'm concerned. But drinking is one of the areas that could cause people to forget themselves and go out of character mannerism, I should say. So that's one of the things you got to abstain from. But one of the things is that the laws, that a Kohen could do, other than the Ha Kohen. Anyway, well, even the laws that the Ha Kohen could do, like the Ha Kohen could drink wine. The Ha Kohen can't be defiled by the dead, but he could drink wine. The regular Kohens can be defiled by the dead. And also, a regular Kohen could be defiled and making the process of the red heifer to make people purify. So he's not allowed to even do that in that sense. And it's not only a male or a female decide to do that. So now one of the issues is you're not about people. You're only about God. A lot of people say, well, I'm just trying to get close to God. I'm not worried about, dealing with, being close to people. I just want to get close to God. Well, that's what the Nazarite is actually doing. He actually just want to get close to God. He ain't about people. It's about God only. And one of the things is, that your righteousness is only dealt with when you deal with people. You know what I mean? And you do more of a service for God when you deal with people. But when you focus more on self, and that's why I say a male or a female, we just think mostly of a male being a Nazarite, but a woman might take that vow to be a Nazarite for various reasons and everything like that. And, she's subject to the same laws and all, of the Nazarite. So it's male or female. But the character of the individual is now, I can't be around you too tough. And know what? What's different is that if somebody dropped dead near them, well, you said, wow, I'm not touching them. They didn't fall on me. Why is it that if it's near me or certain proximity to me, that I'm defiled and I haven't even touched them? Didn't even jump over the individual, you know? And it's always, the speculation that you being so much, separate that you brought out maybe some of the sins in the next individual, whether it's he or she, and they drop dead. And now you actually become responsible for whatever it is, somebody dropped dead. The Torah holds you responsible. And you say, I didn't have anything to do with that person that dropped dead. Well, as far as you're concerned, or, he or she, as far as, the Nazarite is concerned, I had no responsibility for that person dropping dead. Why should I got to start all over? I said I'm going to do, 30 days, at the minimum. And here it is, I got 27 in the hole already, and I got to start all over again because of that. And it's considered a sin offering. Now, the Nazarite is called holy, but if he's defiled, he brings a sort of sin offering. If a Nazarite is still called holy, and at the end of his days, without any interruption, he still brings a sin offering. So now I'll leave it to you and your teachers to discuss what kind of person is a Nazarite. And I know just a different sect of, a group of people that claim to be, I'm a Nazarite, I'm living like a Nazarite and this, that, and the other. You cannot be a Nazarite today without the Kohanes existing in a place. I mean, a Kohen functioning at in the office, functioning at full scale with a place that is sanctified for you to, actually consecrate your head to. You cannot do that today. So that's out. But just to think about the individual, and it's close to that, could it be the individual that brought his wife to an issue and said, oh man, I messed up really bad. I feel bad about myself. We don't find out how she feels. And it goes on to that, he said, look, I need to straighten my life out. Or a woman that might have been really rambunctious or something like that there, as we say, from, something around my circles, being rambunctious. And she decided, to say, I need to straighten my life out while I still got a chance. And go through that, monastic type life. We could see more of a female being prompted to do that than we could see pretty much, a male prompting to do that. Because at least, we could consider it somewhat a thing of chastity for a moment, but, that's another story. You could discuss it, amongst the teachers, but that's some of the things I look at and try to express. And I want to skip on down in the same chapter, around the 22nd verse, which is, just what I want to speak on a little bit. That's, I find very, very unique, and in this sense here, and most Israelites around my circles are familiar with it, and we use it a lot. And that's the priestly blessing. And it starts, and most of everybody know where it's located in by heart, 6th chapter, a number, the 22nd verse. And that's where, we start to get the build up from it. So when it goes down to the 22nd verse, it says, and the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, speak unto the children, 22nd verse. The Lord spoke unto Moses and Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, on this wise you shall bless the children of Israel. Ye shall say unto them. Now, I want to read that them two verses, in the Hebrew, in a sense, where it says, Yabah el Aharon, where el Benai lemor, kol. That word kol means thus, exactly as, typical et b'nei Yisrael amor, lahem. All right. So the word more, le'amor, is used several times, and it's kind of redundant, but it means that you must do it a certain way. And the word kol means thus. That means without any deviation. Without any deviation here when you say kol, half hey. All right. And when you're talking about the B'nai Yisrael, they use the word and more again, but this time it's written different. It's written with a kola male, which means a full, with a wa. A wa is put there. Now, a more don't usually have a wa in it, but in this case here, it used the word, with a full male lahem. So that means that the say with enthusiasm, So not only you got to say do it a certain way, but in this blessing for the children of Israel, but it must be done, with full enthusiasm. You say it with some chutzpah, some power, some enthusiasm. You can't, and also what is interesting that we, and this, when hopefully I get to the very end, what we find actually is that didn't Aharon bless us in the book of Shemini, in the citrus of Shemini in Leviticus? Now, we don't know exactly what he said, but Shemini is on the very day of Rosh Chodesh and the tabernacle is functioning. But he had blessed us, but he don't say what he said, how he said it, and also he's getting this information at this time. So did he get it after he blessed the people or before he blessed the people during the time of Shemini? All right. Because it's told Moses, but Aaron elected to bless the people. But it's told to Moses to tell Aaron and his sons how to bless the children of Israel. And so this is something that we find. Now, also, unique thing to discuss further as we're going forward is that when we look at the Sidra Bechothai, if you walk in my statutes, and these are my statutes, in my statutes, you're supposed to walk. So in that particular portion, dealing with, Leviticus, didn't God told us, that he blessed shall he be so and so. He told us about a bunch of blessings in that particular portion. So now, if the Creator himself told us about a bunch of what he'll do, and we walk in the statutes and those blessings that he'll put upon us, then what will be the reason to tell Aaron just the way you got to bless us? And also, just to think about it even further, is that who would I rather be blessed by? Do I rather be blessed by Aharon, or do I rather be blessed by the Creator? Which one would I like? Which one would I think carry much more weight? Logically, And naturally, I would say the creative blessing definitely overshadows man's blessing. So why would I really be concentrating and looking for a blessing from a Kohen? And suppose I don't like him or he don't like me, for some reason. Should I take a blessing from somebody I don't like? Or should a person I feel comfortable with a blessing from somebody that don't like me, don't understand me? So this is some of the things we got to think about when we deal with the priestly blessing. And one of the things is that I'm going to elaborate a little bit on it. In the priestly blessing that we say, and it's like three words, 5 words, and 7 words, and it all is a build-up, all right, from 3 to 5 and to 7, pretty much like the winding staircase in Solomon's temple, but that he built, 3, 5, and 7 steps. But one of the interesting things is that, all right, now what's going on is the difference between Aaron's blessing and the creative, what he said in Bekothai, and that's what we need to look into and see if there's a difference between the blessing that we say so regular in our various congregations and our settings, and then traditionally on Yom Tov, certain holy days and stuff like that, you get that blessing from the Kohanim. That blessing is said in most synagogues, and they call it Dukani, amongst that. And amongst the Sephardic, they do it every Shabbat, but amongst Ashkenazis, they do it at certain times of the year. And, what is interesting is that we actually, when we listen to the blessings, and I just want to bring this out just in case I'm going to get to it, is that we make a reply. The reply is basically a rabbinic thing, institution. It's not really, in the Tanakh that we might make a reply. Can you hear our song? Or Yizay, Yizay Hashem, if it be the will of Hashem, or can you hear songs that maybe, God's, maybe God's will. Those replies, is rabbinic. And then once it, on Yom Kippur, we say, the reply is Amen, 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 in that area there. So those is was instituted by rabbinic, traditions, but the actual blessing is mandated by God. And you say, okay, if God telling them what to say, then we got to say, okay, they might be a little bit more unique and different from what we read in Bekothai. So now we have to examine the actual concepts of this threefold blessing that is talked about here, and that the priest must do. And what's interesting is, just like he deal with the altar incense, just like he light the menorah, just like he deal with the sacrifices and sprinkling the blood, just like, and once a year when he go in the Holy of Holies, this is his job. And it said this is his job, not from the beginning, but at a certain point in time towards the ending of a lot of things that's set in place. All right? So this is his job. And also, the thing about the Kohanim, when he do the blessing, and this is some of the things I'd just like to bring out first, is that his hand should be raised and he should be standing, not sitting down giving you a blessing. All right? So that means that they extrapolate that from when Aaron gave a blessing the first time in Shemini. His hands was raised. He lifted up his hands and he blessed the people. Whatever he said is a whole nother thing, but he lifted his hand, blessed the people. So that's on Rosh Kodesh. We know that. And also, so since the hands must be raised, now the way the fingers is and all that kind of stuff, that's a whole nother story. All right. But the hands must be raised, all right, in that sense. And he must be standing, in order to bless him. All right. So now we're going to look into a few um, areas of the blessing. All right, that that he's told to say. All right. So the first part, Yevreka Adonai Yishmereka. All right, the Lord bless you and guard you. All right. So sometimes I say keep, God, So now, what if I'm blessed, with certain things, then um, why do I need to be guarded if I'm blessed? But the first part is the Lord bless you and guard you. Guard me from what? Protect me from what? I got a blessing. Is this a real blessing? If it, up here or not? I'm gonna leave some things out for you to discuss, but I'm just saying, what am I being guarded from? All right, those are some of the things to think about as we go forward. Adonai Panai Eleaka, Wikuneka. All right, and it says, and the Lord shine his face, to thee, upon thee, and be gracious, be grateful, So now, all right, then he just supposed to bless me, my Lord. Now, it's saying, let the, may the Lord, make my face, face to shine, cause my face to shine, the Lord shine his face upon me. That means my face is going to shine as well, and be gracious, extend, be gracious unto me. Well, I think if I got what I want, that should be already automatic. But being great, why I got that? If I'm blessed, I'm supposed to look like I'm blessed. I'm supposed to have that kind of glow. Like Moses came down with the second tablets, what I mean? Well, I might not glow like Moses, but I'm supposed to have the cheerfulness in my face and my expression. What I mean? If God, face shine upon me, then I should reflect an enthusiasm and a happiness and a joy because of that. That's one of the things that I should be looking at in this here. And and then it says Yisa Adonai Panai and Lekawi Assembly called Shalom. All right. So and the Lord, carry his face unto you and put upon you peace. Now, so now when we look at those particular things, sometimes it might be translated. I'm gonna read what the text actually say. The Lord bless thee and keep thee. The Lord make his face to shine upon thee and be gracious unto thee. And the Lord lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. All right. So now, before we even get to the last part of that, all right, one of the things is that when we talk about being, if we walk in the statutes, the difference in Bekothai is that if we walk in God's statutes, all right, then he will bless us with products, with things in Bekothai. And so I'm getting this, I might get, more crops, I might get abundance of, monetary goal. I might, get, good health, whatever the case is. Whatever it is, I'm gaining, I'm gaining something. All right. But what the blessing is different here is that he, he blessing me if I walk in the statue with items. But when the priest say the blessing, he blessing the items. So now it's different if I say I have, say, say I have a pocket full of, a bag full of gold. I have a bag full of gold. All right. That's a possession that I'm blessed with, for whatever actions I did. But is the bag of gold a blessing in itself? Because now I got possessions. So it became a possession. But is the gold on my possession is a bless? And when I say bless, the thing is, why you need to guard me? It's because I could get it and lose it. I could get it and destroy myself. So when we think about the priestly blessing, it's not only the blessing is not only that, but the thing is that your possessions being blessed, where you don't have to worry about it destroying you. Some people will hit the lotto and they say, I got more problems once I hit the lotto. I got family members I can't trust. I do this and do that and everything like that. Or people that make success stories in, industries and sports and stuff like that. I can't really tell who my friends is. Everybody smile in my face and act a certain way. We have it's a saying in the Apocrypha. It says, in prosperity, who can know a friend? But in adversity, an enemy is never hidden. You go into hard times, you could tell who don't like you. But if you are prosperous, it's very, very difficult to tell who don't like you. When you prosper, because the friends, you don't know if they're genuine friends or not. So when we look at this here, and the thing about peace of mind, that your possessions don't possess you. That's why in Hebrew, we don't have the term of possession directly, because the possession, there is unto me. There's no such thing as I have in Hebrew grammar. We don't say I have. There is to me. All right, not that I have. It is to me. That is the concept in the Hebrew language. So So when we say Yeshli, Kesef, there is to me Kesef. You know, Yeshli Isha, there's to me a wife. You know, but actually having certain things, possession, it's a difference. So that's why when we look at the priestly blessing, it's a great difference in how we view this particular blessing here. And then we get into this the last part, where it says, "Wesamo et Hashemi, Ben Israel Wani Abrakai." Now, this is strange. And the 27th verse, it says, and they should put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Now, when we look at those threefold blessings, the 3, 5, and 7 words, then one of the things that should come to mind is that one the blessing in the singular, talking about one individual, the Lord bless thee and keep thee. And that's singular. The Lord makes face shine upon the immigration. That's singular. And all the way through, it's singular. Why is it at the very end, it become plural, in that sense? Well, it's like the numbers, the individual count and the collective count, because you blessed in a society where no one else is blessed. It's not really a great blessing. You know what I mean? If you're the only one that has, and you're around people that don't have, is how can you really enjoy what you have when nobody else have? So it's like the whole nation itself got to have. The whole nation itself got to be in a possession. The whole nation itself the possessions that they have got to be blessed by God. Not getting a blessing, but having your blessings blessed by the Creator. You know what I mean? And it says that at the end that the Kohen, must do that. And so one of the things is that he must say it this way, and also he must also continue to say at the very end, You know what I mean? Don't it say you bless the children in this wise, the creator let you know where, that his name is and who actually where the stuff come from. It ain't coming from the Kohen. It's coming from him. But he wants the Kohen who represent us to be the individual to speak his will concerning us, and he got to do it with, a lot of, charisma. I mean, the enthusiasm rather. You know what I mean, and a strong voice. That's why the word "amor" is used there with the kol malay. It got to be fully pepped. Now, another thing also, any other prayer we can say in the Tanakh in any language, any prayer. But when it comes to this particular prayer, since it says "kol," thus he should say, it must be done in Hebrew. So suppose the guy don't speak Hebrew, then somebody better tell him if he's a Kohen, which I mean it's far fetched for these days. I'm just saying because of rabbinic tradition. Yeah, in most synagogues, you have the cousin, who's the guy that mostly leads services and everything like that. He would say it first, and then repeat what the cousin say. And they got to say it in a melody. They can't say it, So the enthusiasm, the song is always a melody. A song is always enthusiasm. That's why when he got to say it, it got to be, really, really a upbeat type of thing. Like really, really like I'm really putting, all this kavana in it. So the Kohen, you could like retranslate it. Okay, it's okay to translate, but he must say it in the original tongue. No other prayer in the Tanakh that we must say in its original tongue, except that one. If each guy is a Kohen, if he's a real Kohen, that must be said. Now, I'm not a Kohen, so I might say it, this way or that way, English, whatever the case is. I'm not a Kohen. You know, God didn't, didn't commission me to say it that way, but but I usually, if I have to say it, I'm gonna try to, do my best and mean what I say, and put a lot of, emphasis on there, because suppose the Kohen don't feel like blessing anybody that day. He might have had a bad day, bad week, difficult week. He might be thinking about some of the people he put out to camp and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're gonna stop at. Now, one more thing I'm going to bring up about the offerings of 12 princes. That's where the chapter get long. I just want to bring out just the first one, and when we talk about um, the tabernacle, I tell you about when they made it into all this, the setting up of everything, and anointing of everything like that. It goes on to say that in the 12th verse of the 7th chapter, well, better yet, 11th verse of the 7th chapter. It said, and the Lord said unto Moses, they shall present their offerings, each prince on his day, for a dedication of the altar. Now, when we talk about, and that's when, after everything was set up, the princes want to bring offering, and a dedication. So that's why I'm gonna end that pretty much. And when the princes want to bring offering and dedication to the Mishkan, now we read in Teruma, when everybody brought up an offering and stuff like that, the princes were last. And when the thing about being last is that let everybody else do what they're going to do, and we take care of the ends. And what they wind up with is the ends, because you read that the princes give the top princes of those two particular tribes, 12 princes, what they wind up giving up is a stone for a breastplate. How big is a stone? How big is as the Kohen's chest? How big is the breastplate? All they gave was a stone as a donation. You the top man of the nation, of that tribe. And all you can have is a stone. And imagine a guy that might have an honor stone, or a guy that might have, a carbuncle. Everybody didn't have a sapphire. You had to have a stone that represented a particular, your particular tribe and stuff like that.
Shalom, family. Yeah, gonna give Nasik a moment to get back. He was almost at the conclusion of his lesson. I don't know his he froze, so we'll wait for him to get back on. Nasik, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I'm now. I think I went
Okay.
out. I paused. I see when it went out. All right.
All right, you got it.
All right. Okay. It went out for a minute. So then there was a time that he wanted to make up. So God allowed him to bring up. Now they brought 6 wagons between 2 princes. So you say, well, 6 wagons? Ain't there's 12 princes? They got 12 oxen. But he got 6 wagons. What 2 princes got together? Did Reuben and Ephraim get together? Or they had issues? Did Reuben and Judah got together? Or they had issues? Or, say, well, which 2 going to, since there's only 3 tribes and each cardinal point, then if Issachar and Judah got together, then who's Zebulon coupled with? Of course, we don't get that information in here. That's just different commentaries and rabbinic source. I leave that up to you. But I'm saying that they gave 6 wagons, and 4 of them went to the Merarites, and 2 went to Gershon. And he's talking about 12 oxen. And Moses was told to accept those wagons. And also the dedication, they talk about each prince gave a dedication on their day. Now, one of the things I'm going to leave you with in this area here is that, and plus the size of the wagons itself, is that them beams were thousands of pounds. Them beams at the tabernacle was actually 1,000 pounds. So when you got 4 wagons for the Merarites to carry all the beams, that means that every spot, and they had to stack it up and pack it up with uniqueness, like a jigsaw puzzle, where everything fit. When no spaces, it's actually left void in the wagon. And that's how they remove it. But when we think about the actual area of the offerings of the princes of the 12 tribes, we got to look at and say, well, who's gonna be first? Now, somebody got to be first if we all offer up on the same day. Somebody got to be the first one to offer up on that day. You can't do them all at the same time. So who's going to be first? So the Creator designate who's going to be first. And it went according to how the camps actually marched in the wilderness with the Mishkan. The eastern front, southern front, western front, and then the northern front. And that's the order of, but you say, okay, now, since somebody got to be first on the first day, it's only one day of a Rosh Chodesh going to be with the 12 guys. So now, who get the honor to offer up their dedication on Rosh Chodesh, and at the Mishkan? Now it's the tribe of Yehudah. There's a lot of discussion on it, but and everything had a meaning. But since my time is pretty much shot, everything they brought, even though they brought the same thing, it was a different meaning. It's almost like saying, well, we got long division, short division, all kind of ways to come up with the same, equation, but it meant something different. And our style of arriving at it, it was different for each and every one of us personally, and also collectively, it meant the same thing. So maybe another time I'll get a chance to speak on some of the meanings of the different items that they brought up. But the first one to bring up was Nakshan, and on Rosh Chodesh, and that's the same day Nadab was slain. Same day, that all the other stuff is going on, the anointing, the cloud of glory. So all that happened on the same exact day, which is a busy day. So it was a sad, but an important day because Nakshan's nephews had left. And many dads, it's his father-in-law, Aharon. So they lost family members. And yet, just like Aharon had to continue with the festivities on that particular day, though he lost 2 sons, imagine Nakshan himself, had to feel a certain way, but he still represented a tribe of Yehudah. And he's the only one that's not called a prince out of the 12, though he offered up on Rosh Kodesh? Could it be because he also felt emotionally involved with the loss of his nephews? So with that, I hope you got something. I would have said any mistakes been my own, and maybe another time we could talk more about different offerings in the future. But study them, go over it, discuss them with your various teachers. It was a whole lot of stuff in this particular portion here, which is the longest portion in the Tanakh, and the subject matters go so broad, even with the Torah, where you have a play or a correlation between the Sotah concept and the Nazarite concept, where this woman in the Sotah is not mentioned. We don't have no name of her, and yet in the Torah we got the name of the man, but we don't got the name of the wife, and yet the wife play a major role. And also in the Sotah, the woman play a major role. And we also talk about the Nazarite. And it's a different type of Nazarite. And the job is only for the woman to make sure she do the part, whereas the man don't take a part, but supply stuff. And then the Torah, the man co-sign with the Malach and saying, okay, all right, I'm allowed to do that. So there's a lot of stuff in discussion that you could deal with the Torah that it covers also the core, the middle part of the Nasso in the South. So with that, I hope you got something I'm going to say. I'm going to say Shalom Aleichem and early Shabbat Shalom. And any mistakes been my own. And leave the comments, in the chat and support the D.C.B channel. All right.
Hallelujah. Torah about Nasik. Thank you all for tuning in. We hope and pray that all of you will subscribe to the channel, will share, and will definitely let someone know. Like the video. So Shalom, Shalom. May the Most High God bless you all. Everyone have a great Shabbat sleep. Shalom, Shalom. Hallelujah.
Let's get knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers. Judgment, truth, and love should be coming from the leaders. Yeah, knowledge, wisdom, understanding. We'll do our standing. All praises to the Most High, His laws and commandments. The hot CHOKMAH here to push it through your speakers.